Hello, this is Carson Cox, District Fisheries Biologist with the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. I'm frequently asked, what does a fisheries biologist do in the winter? And my answer is, I analyze the data I collect during the spring, summer, and fall. This presentation is an assessment of largemouth bass length limit change from 15-inch minimum to a 13 to 18-inch slot on 3 selected Kansas lakes. The 3 study lakes were Madison City Lake, a 114-acre lake located in Greenwood County, Moline New City Lake, a 185-acre lake located in Elk County, and Sedan New City Lake, a 70-acre lake in Chautauqua County. Remember that Moline New City Lake was a little bit larger than the others, and that will become an important factor which we'll discuss later in the presentation. The objectives of the study were to reduce largemouth bass density by increasing angler harvest of bass less than 13 inches, and secondly, to compare largemouth bass growth rates when changing a 15-inch minimum length limit to a 13 to 18-inch slot length limit. I used a Smith Root electrofishing boat to sample bass in the month of May. That's my boat pictured on the left. A generator is located under the seat on which I'm sitting. It is capable of producing 1,000 volts. I can control the voltage, amperage, and pulse rate from the control panel located in the center console. A netter stands on the front of the boat and dips the stunned bass from the area between the 2 arrays and puts them in the recovery tank in the middle of the boat. This is the desk in my office. On the left side are 2 boxes filled with about 1,000 scale envelopes for this study. On the right side is a projection microscope. It magnifies the scales onto a piece of paper so I can measure the length at age. This is what a typical scale looks like. I can determine how long a fish was in any given year by measuring the ratio of the annulus to the total length of the fish at capture. This is the Madison City Lake largemouth bass catch per hour of electrofishing. Notice that the objective catch rate is 100 bass per hour of electrofishing. From 2001 until 2007, all of those catch rates were above the objective rate. When this happens, there were too many mouths to feed for the available food supply. However, in 2008, we changed the length limit from a 15-inch minimum to a 13 to 18-inch slot. Notice that in 2008 and 2009, we saw a reduction in the catch per hour of electrofishing below the objective catch rate. This is the Madison City Lake largemouth bass age and growth comparison. The red line shows the age of the fish in 2006 when there was a 15-inch minimum, while the black line shows the age of the fish in 2009 when we had changed it to a 13 to an 18 slot. There was a mean increase in growth of 1.5 inches when we changed the length limit. Moving on to Moline New City Lake, this is the largemouth bass catch per hour of electrofishing. Once again, we have the objective catch rate at 100 bass per hour. This is the level at which we can sustain growth in the bass. Above this, as you can see from 2002 until 2006, we had way more fish than we were able to support with the available food supply. It was above the objective catch rate. However, in 2006, we changed that length limit again from the 15-inch minimum to the 13 to 18 slot, and the response in 2007, 8, and 9 was a reduction in the catch per hour of electrofishing. However, you'll notice that it is still slightly above the objective catch rate. This is the Moline New City Lake largemouth bass age and growth comparison. The red line shows the growth rate when we had the 15-inch minimum, while the black line shows the growth rate when we had the 13 to 18 slot. Overall, there was a 0.7-inch increase in growth. However, most of that growth occurred on the bass less than 13 inches. Once those bass got into that protected slot between 13 and 18 inches, the growth rate really didn't increase. This was likely due to the size of the reservoir being 185 acres. Probably there were just too much area for anglers to effectively reduce all of those bass. However, we did see more big bass. This is the Moline New City Lake largemouth bass size comparison. The red squares show the catch rate by year of the bass between 8 to 12 inches. These are really your smaller fish that we were targeting with that 13 to 18 inch slot, while the blue triangles show the bass that were greater than 15 inches. These were the bass that we wanted to increase. So if you'll see that the trend from the red or the small bass decreased from 2003 to 2009, while the trend on the big bass, the blue diamonds, increased between 2003 and 2009. And that's really what the objective of this changing length limit was all about, getting more big bass into the population. And it seemed to work. And finally, this is the Sedan New City Lake largemouth bass catch per hour of electrofishing. Once again, notice the objective range at 100 bass per hour of electrofishing. From 2002 until 2006, we were above the objective range. There were too many bass in the population for the amount of food available. However, in 2007, we changed the length limit to a 13 to 18 inch slot. Anglers were now able to harvest those bass less than 13 inches, and by 2008 and 2009, our catch rate had declined below the objective range, effectively increasing the amount of food available and increasing the growth rates. This is Sedan New City Lake largemouth bass age and growth comparison. The red line shows the growth of the bass when we had the 15-inch minimum, while the black line shows the growth of the bass after we changed it to a 13 to 18-inch slot. There was a mean growth increase of 1.1 inches by changing to that slot length limit. In conclusion, changing the length limit from a 15-inch minimum to a 13 to 18-inch slot increased the growth rate at all three lakes. Secondly, changing the length limit from a 15-inch minimum to a 13 to 18-inch slot decreased the density of small bass. This only works if anglers are willing to harvest bass under 13 inches, which was difficult at the larger surface acre at Moline. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the larger bass at these three lakes.